I'm Claire and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be looking at the top rated fragrances in my collection. So what do I mean by that? I mean the ones with the highest rating on Parfumo. So I think there's just a bit of a fascination with your own collection sometimes, and you're just curious to know what other people think. And really this is a good way of looking at what other people think. So I've seen a few people do this video, but I think the idea for this video really came from Danielle at the Perfume Journal. So I'm going to leave her video down below. And also I've seen Karen at New Day New Scent do this video, but with Fragrantica ratings. So I'm going to leave her video down below in case you do want to check either of those videos out. So if you've not seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology. I also just do some straight perfume reviews, fun perfume tags. So if that kind of thing interests you and you haven't already done so, then please do press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please also let me know if you do know which is the top rated fragrance in your collection. So because I'm a scientist, I'm just going to talk about where this kind of method could go wrong before I start to look at my rankings, because I can kind of see some pitfalls here. So the first thing I've noticed is that the ratings on Parfumo and Fragrantica are wildly different. So it's going to really matter which of these websites you choose as to the results you will get. The second thing I really want to point out here is that if you do this for your own collection, just think about what makes a fragrance have a high rating. It has to be mass appealing, and that might not necessarily reflect the fragrances in your own collection that you love the most. And that's because, you know, those little quirks and interesting things about a fragrance that make you love it might make somebody else really hate it. Also, I noticed on Parfumo there is an inherent bias in their dataset in that they rate fragrances with more votes to be higher ranked, even if they have the same score. I totally understand why they do that, because, you know, more people have said that fragrance is great, but it does sort of bias the ratings towards more popular brands because they will have more votes. So I've tried to counteract that and just keeping any fragrance with the same score at the same position, and I will just tell you the number of votes that each fragrance got. I've only discounted fragrances with fewer than 5 votes because I think even small brands should get a chance to go into my top 15. Another thing that I noticed while compiling this list is that not all of my fragrances are listed on Parfumo. So clearly if they're not listed, they can't be rated, which means they can't be in my top rated fragrances. So having said that, let's have a look at which of my 130 fragrances are top rated. So in 15th equal spot, we have 4 fragrances tying on a score of 8.1 out of 10. So the first of these is Kayali's Vanilla 28. And this had 1,317 votes. So I think Vanilla 28 is probably Kayali's best-selling fragrance throughout its life. One of their oldest fragrances too. It was in their original release. So this has had time to accumulate lots of votes. And this is something that has just been replicated by lots of brands now. It's quite a ubiquitous DNA. So yeah, Kayali's Vanilla 28 with 8.1. Also scoring 8.1 was Orphéon with 777 votes. A really interesting fragrance, but I would never put this one as mass appealing, so I'm surprised that this is polled at 8.1. Also polling at 8.1 with 66 votes was Nina Ricci L'Extase Rose Absolue. So this fragrance is a Francis Kurkdjian fragrance, and I think really its claim to fame is that it was compared with some of his own brand fragrances, and that is really what I think buoyed its popularity. So yeah, L'Extase Rose Absolue. And also polling at 8.1, again an older fragrance, something that's been discontinued a while, is Lolita Lempicka's Elle à la folie. So this received 20 votes, and this fragrance is a deep, resinous, ambery vanilla fragrance, but it's also got this kind of solar floral thing going on as well. It's totally reflected by the colour of the bottle, this. It's very, very golden smelling. So yeah, Elle à la folie by Lolita Lempicka. So next, 3 fragrances came in at 12th equal with a score of 8.2 each. And the first of these with 1,950 votes was Guerlain's Mon Guerlain. So this is a soft, pillowy, tonka and vanilla laced lavender fragrance, clearly somewhat inspiring, I think, things like Burberry Goddess, and probably just as popular at the time as well when they were released. So yeah, Mon Guerlain by Guerlain. Also coming in at 8.2 in 12th equal spot was Cosmos Sacred Mist. So this really surprised me. It had 20 votes on Parfumo, and the score on Parfumo is much, much higher than the score on Fragrantica, again reflecting that massive difference in the audience of people who actually look at those websites. But yeah, this one's a spa-like, citrusy, woody, herbal scent. Really not something that I would typically think of as something that would be popular and loved. But clearly people on Parfumo love this one a lot more than the people on Fragrantica. So that's Cosmos Sacred Mist. And finally 8.2, a fragrance I'm very happy to see. And this one had a total of 9 votes. It's Mabelle's Forbidden Bloom. So this is my favourite from Mabel, and it just is a juicy, fruity floral fragrance, but with a deep muskiness and a really intense, almost solar feeling warmth to it. A stunning fragrance, and I'm happy that it's got such a high score. So that's Forbidden Bloom by Mabelle. So next we have 3 fragrances with a score of 8.3 each, and they are in 9th position. So the first of these, with 891 votes, is clearly a very popular fragrance, and it's Musc Noir Rose by Narciso Rodriguez. So this fragrance is really a syrupy, plummy kind of style rose fragrance with a lovely creamy vanillic dry down. Easy, likeable, crowd pleasing, but still interesting. So that's Musc Noir Rose. Also charting in 9th position is Chanel's Coco Mademoiselle Intense, and this satanically has 666 votes. And this one I think is really a fragrance that a lot of people find a lot easier to wear than the original Coco Mademoiselle. It's more vanillic, it's less citrusy, and it's just not feeling as strong to me. It's not something that I find as overwhelming as Coco Mademoiselle. So yeah, 8.3 out of 10. And finally, with 650 votes, it's everybody's favourite alien flanker. It's Alien Essence Absolue by Mugler. So this fragrance is just, I think, the version that everybody loves. It's that resinous, very syrupy feeling, vanillic version of Alien, and sadly missed, and now sadly very long gone, I think. I think this is really hard to find these days. But clearly it was loved, and it's still charting at 8.3. So that's Alien Essence Absolute. So coming in at 8.4, we have a 5-way tie for 4th position. And this is really where the analysis kind of breaks down a little bit for me, but I'll explain that as we go along. So first up, with 2,583 votes, is Ambre Nuit by Dior. So this fragrance was reformulated at some point, and actually Fragrantica has 2 separate entries for the 2 different versions of this fragrance, which to me suggests they might be quite considerably different to each other. Parfumo is not saying that it's a different fragrance, so it's lumping in all the first formulation votes with the second formulation votes. But yeah, this one's rated 8.4, and it is just a rose and amber fragrance with a little bit of a spiciness in the opening. It's got kind of a warmth to it in the opening. So yeah, Ambre Nuit. Also coming in at 8.4, I think, is one of a lot of people's favourite designer fragrances, and this is Lempicka Rouge. So this is the kind of spicy, gingery version of the typical Lempicka DNA, with a lot of creaminess with sandalwood and also with vanilla, and just a very kind of mass appealing dry down, I think, for this one, but still quite an interesting, striking fragrance, and enough to get this to 8.4. So that's Lempicka Rouge. Also in this position with 879 votes is Chanel's Coco. So this is really something that I'm surprised has so few votes. When you think about the number of votes Ambre Nuit has and the number of votes this fragrance has, I would have thought it would have been the other way around. I think this fragrance has been incredibly popular, and I still see a lot of people with this fragrance in their collections. It's a really spicy feeling, deep feeling patchouli fragrance with some rose. Just a beautiful fragrance for the winter. So that's Coco by Chanel. Also charting 8.4 with 661 votes is a discontinued fragrance from Tom Ford. And this one, I remember when it was discontinued, it seemed to disappear very, very quickly, which to me suggests that it was very popular. So this one is Tom Ford Noir pour Femme. So this in the dry down is a creamy, coffee fragrance. It's absolutely delicious in the dry down, and I totally see why this one is charting so highly. So that's Noir pour Femme by Tom Ford. And then the one where it really breaks down for me, and I really think this must be wrong, is Chanel number 5. So this has actually only 411 votes on Parfumo. And I'm really shocked at that. Either people are thinking, oh, Chanel number 5, everybody will have reviewed that, I don't need to review it. Or perhaps people are clicking on the wrong version of this fragrance on Parfumo. Because I found it quite confusing with the versions that are on Parfumo. It's really unclear, unless you're someone who's really into fragrance, which version you might actually have. I think really that might be resulting in people putting their votes onto the wrong version of this fragrance, and that might be why there are so few ratings for this one. But yeah, I think this is a fragrance that most people know, isn't it? It's aldehydes, it's soapy, it's powdery, it's solar, it's bright feeling, and it's golden feeling as well. It's got ylang ylang, and it's also got rose and iris very noticeably. Really a fragrance that's very divisive, but I absolutely love wearing this one sometimes. It's definitely a mood for me, but I do love it on occasion. So that's Chanel number 5. And now we're into the top 3. So in third place with 16 votes and a score of 8.7, 16 votes isn't a lot, let's face it, is Lush's 29 High Street. So this one I love, and I'm really surprised this is charting so highly, but I guess it's because a small select bunch of people love it very, very much, and they've given it a very high rating. But this fragrance just smells like the Lush shop. There's no other way to describe it. It's quite jewel toned, it's quite citrusy in the opening, but really it dries down into something that smells like a Lush bath bomb, really. I think it's a very loved fragrance, and that's probably why it's survived so long in their range. It's one of their oldest fragrances. That's Lush's 29 High Street. So in at number 2 with a score of 8.8 and only 9 votes, so maybe not that reliable, is Exalté by Funmi Monet. You know, when there's an influencer fragrance, they do have a following, but I'm surprised that this has only 9 votes. I guess maybe people who follow her maybe are more on Fragrantica, I'm not sure. It's really something that's akin to Mansera's Roses Vanille, but it's more amber, it's deeper, and that rose feels, as Tammy Roxanne would say, more beery. It's one of those kind of beery rose fragrances. And also, if you compare it with Roses Vanille, it's less sweet, and it's got less of that lemon at the beginning as well. And yeah, I really like this one, but I'm still a little bit shocked that it's polling at 8.9. So that's Exalté by Funmi Monet. And finally, number 1 here is no surprise to me. It's been around a long time. It's had a lot of time to gather some votes. And with 10,974 votes and a score of 8.9, it's Naxos by Xerjoff. So this fragrance, it's won, niche fragrance of all time, best niche fragrance of all time. I think it won with Fragrantica. So clearly this is popular. It's something that appeals to men and to women. It's just got a very likeable, fluffy, vanillic DNA to it. I feel like this list is really full of vanillas. And this is a very crowd-pleasing kind of vanilla fragrance. It's got tobacco, it's got honey, but it's also got, to my nose at least, a lot of tonka. At least my version does. It's very almondy feeling, and the lavender is very soft. There's some spices going on. There's a lot of things going on here, but it's all very soft feeling. And I just think this one is quite huggy and enveloping, and is something that I think is just a crowd-pleasing, easygoing fragrance for a lot of people. And that's probably why this one is polling so highly. But I am still surprised that something this expensive is number 1 on the list. So that's Xerjoff's Naxos. So are you shocked by my number 1? I really did debate whether to remove the fragrances from this list with low numbers of votes, but I didn't in the end. I just felt like it was nicer to smaller brands, really. But really, can we trust numbers that have only been generated from 7 people or 9 people or even 20 people? I'm not sure that we can. I think there are a few things that I've learnt from generating this list, and that is, 1, that older fragrances do better. They've just had more time to accumulate more votes, and that generally helps them to rank higher on Parfumo, especially if you're not someone like me who will go through and look at each individual score and rank your fragrances that way. Parfumo just automatically ranks fragrances with more votes more highly. I've also noticed that warm, vanilla-y, tonka fragrances seem to do much better in these ratings than other types of fragrance. And I guess that just reflects a general preference towards those kind of scent profiles. When I've looked at bestseller lists in the past and also looked at people's top 10 for life lists, Generally, vanilla fragrances tend to come quite highly on this list and in quite some number, so I'm not surprised. I think the most important thing that I'd like to get across really is that if you do look at this yourself, don't worry about it. You know, love what you love. I think it's the same with YouTube. Listen to other people's opinions, acknowledge other people's opinions, but have your own. You know, you love what you love. You know what you smell. And that's really the only thing that matters with fragrance. It really doesn't matter if 999 other people absolutely adore a fragrance if you're the single person who hates it. It's really irrelevant to you personally because you won't want to wear that fragrance. Effectively, that means that these numbers are just a point of interest. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, then please press the like button and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know how you feel about popular fragrances in your own collection. Do you embrace popular fragrances or do you try to avoid them? Do you worry that other people will be wearing them around you? I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.